Okay, this is lesson 7 of hands-on equations, your final lesson that you need to complete in order to get full credit for compacting out of the lessons in the classroom. Once you finish this lesson, you need to make sure that you complete the lesson 7 worksheet, as well as there's a post-test posted on the website right after that you need to complete. And then you can turn everything in from lessons 1 through 7, including the pre-test and the post-test. What you should see is a big difference between how you did on the pre-test versus the post-test. You've learned some new things. You might be solving the problems differently. You're thinking about them differently, or maybe you were able to solve more. Alright, so lesson 7 is different. Today we're not using any manipulatives. I'm going to show you how to solve these using paper and pencil. The learning target is that I can solve a multi-step algebraic equation using pictures. So far, you've learned how to solve these using guess and check by plugging a number in to see if it worked. We did that at the very beginning. And then we talked about what the variables were. And then you learned how to solve using legal moves. You learned how to create equivalent statements when you were looking at the distributive property and distributing the number in front of the parentheses across the parentheses. And that was the distributive property of multiplication over division, or over addition. So you've learned quite a lot from the very beginning. So let's go to our lesson for today. Okay, our first problem is 4x plus 3 equals 3x plus 9. We're solving this using paper and pencil now. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out my scale. So we're still using pictures to solve the problems. There's two different ways that you can do this. There's my scale. I'm going to build my equation just like I did before. You can either choose to represent your variable x, we have 4 of them, by drawing a triangle, and then our number cube 3, then 3x plus 9. Now, that's one way to draw the scale. Another way, and this is the way that I do it, is just to use my variables. I have 4 x's, number cube 3, 3 x's, and the number cube 9. Then I'm still going to solve it using my legal moves. The way that I'm going to represent my legal moves on using paper and pencil is by using arrows to show that I'm removing them from my scale. So starting with my variables, I'm going to remove 3 from this side and 3 from this side. So I'm left with no variables on the right and 1 on the left. And then I can remove my number cubes. I can take 3 away from this side and I'm left with 0. And I can take 3 away from this side and I'm left with 6. So now when I look at my scale, I can see I don't know what that was. I can see that x equals 6. And I can plug that back into my original picture. And I can say, well, if x equals 6, then 6, there's 4 x's, that's 24. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 3 is 27. And then I have 3 x's here. So 3x, 3 times 6 is 18, plus 9. I want to add my original number cube. 18 plus 9 is 27. And yes, that checks. Okay. This next equation here we have our distributive property of multiplication over addition. So before you build anything, you want to distribute the 2 across your parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite an equivalent equation before I build my scale. So my equivalent equation would be 2x plus 2 times 4, 8, plus x equals x plus 16. I can still put all of my variables together. I can say 3x plus 8 equals x plus 16. And now I can solve. So go ahead and practice solving this using paper and pencil. Make sure to pause the video because I will post the answer in a minute. Okay, so here is what I built on the scale. I have 3x plus 8 equals x plus 16. Since I don't have to rely on my manipulatives, I can just make one number cube. I showed my legal moves. I took a variable away from each side. I took 8 away from each side. On the left, I was left with 0. On the right, I was left with 8. And what I did, just because it might be helpful, especially when you have a lot of numbers and variables up top, is I just redrew what was left over. So I was left with 2 x's on the left and 8 on the right. And when I think about it, 8 divided by 2, because we have 2 variables, is x equals 4. And when I plug that in, you should get 20 equals 20. Okay, try the next one completely on your own from beginning to end. So you have 4x plus 3 equals 3x plus 9. Pause the video and solve it from the beginning to the end. Okay, here is the answer you should get. I built it. I showed my legal moves. Took away 3 variables from both sides. Took away 3 from this side. Took away 3 from this side. Was left with 6. So x equals 6, and your check should be 27 equals 27. Let's try another one. Okay, the first thing you should notice right here is this is showing the distributive property of multiplication over division. So go ahead and distribute and build it from beginning to end. Okay, here's the solution. When I distributed our 2 across the parentheses, I ended up with an equivalent equation, 4x plus 6 equals x plus 9. Build it on my scale, showing my legal moves. And then I redrew my scale to show that I have 3 x's left on the left and 3 on this side. And 3 divided by 3 is x equals 1, and 10 does equal 10. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and complete the Lesson 7 worksheet and check that and make sure you're right. And then you may go on and complete the post-test and turn everything in. I will be adding level 2 lessons for hands-on equations. That's going to get into solving equations that look like this. Okay, so obviously we have a new variable here. We'll be talking about how to do that. You can maybe think about that and explore that if you would like to go ahead and complete lesson 8, which starts level 2. You don't have to. It's not a requirement to compact out of the class, but if you finish any of the work in level 2, you can turn it in to me when you finish level 2. Good luck, and please come ask me if you need any help or have questions.